Hello, we are at IT Camp 2018 and we are talking with Tim Huckaby. Hi, Tim.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Nice to have you here in Cluj again. I think, what time are you? How many times have you been in Cluj?
I think it's 5 or 6.
Wow.
I love this conference. I just love this. Even my wife is with me on this
Nice.
one.
We
Yeah.
love it too. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Romania is a great country. Yeah, great people, great food, great developers. I just love everything about it.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. So, our first question, you showed yesterday some nice demos with augmented reality. Can you tell us a few things about what are the current augmented reality technology limitations and what solution do you propose here?
Yeah, augmented reality. It really has a bold promise, but currently it's not perfect. There's a lot of things that have to come into place before it gets broad adoption. I showed some pretty futuristic things about 3D being rendered in the cloud and delivered to the device in a efficient way, but that application's built by really brilliant engineers, and it's been built over 6 months, if not longer. Really, augmented reality should be at the fingertips of the common developer, and it's just not there yet. It's just too hard. You have to have a math background, number one. Not every developer has expertise in calculus and trigonometry in their quiver. You have to have a real engineering background. It's still not easy for the common developer to do. We really need the augmented reality space to be easy for every developer to provide in rich, awesome, immersive experiences and to do it easily, whether it be from Visual Studio or other developer tools. But to get an immersive experience on in holographic or AR, it's just got to be easier. And right now it's very difficult. So there's the bad news. We're just not there yet. We're just on the beginning of this revolution in augmented reality. The good news is these devices have platforms. Well, at least the Android device and the Apple device have legitimate platforms. ARKit is for real. I mean, I can make fun of Apple till I'm blue in the face, but ARKit is legit, and the ARKit would be the plumbing that runs augmented reality on the iPhone. Yes. And then on the Google Android side, it's called AR Core, also legit. So we do have plumbing down there. We just kind of need to fill the gap in the developer tools so we can get broad adoption.
Totally agree, and your demo was impressive by recognizing different photos and animate them in augmented reality.
Yeah, so the demo is from a company called Xeno Holographic. We built the software for them, and it's completely cloud-based AR. I casually mentioned the IP and the patents are on converting heavyweight 3D in the cloud and bringing them down. But yeah, these objects also have artificial intelligence behind them. So, technically, I don't know, someone famous in history that's long passed away, like I used the metaphor of Winston Churchill. Imagine, just pointing my phone here at this empty chair, and Winston Churchill is there, and you say, hey, Mr. Churchill, what was the turning point of World War II? And then him talking in context. I mean, that's the bold promise of learning in augmented reality. Just giving you these awesome immersive experiences to make you effectively learn so much better than when I was a child, right? That's the promise of this type of stuff.
Yeah, sounds great. And how do you see the current augmented reality usage versus the virtual reality technology?
Virtual reality versus augmented reality. Yeah, I think it's important that we point out the differences. Virtual reality is typically where you wear a headset and you're completely occluded from the outside world. You can't see anything around you. Right? All you see is typically the game or a place like Mars. You're exploring Mars, but you can't see the tables and chairs. That's virtual reality. 90% of virtual reality is games, and that definitely has a place in the world, right? There's definitely a reason for that. I focus on augmented reality and another version of that called mixed reality. Augmented reality is, I put my phone up here and see Winston Churchill, but I still see you.
I agree.
Right? I still see the cameras. And Winston, mixed reality then is Winston Churchill was standing, and I asked him to sit down, and he actually sat down. The augmented reality, mixed reality, has spatial awareness of the table, the chairs, right? And he actually sits down. If I asked Mr. Churchill to stand up and walk over there, he could and talk from over there. That's the difference. That's the world I want to live in. That's the world that has such a bold promise.
Sounds good. And now continue with your presentation from yesterday. You show impressive image recognition, starting with guns to detect, bad guys, and also was nice the presentation, the thing about movie theater to see how your audience behave, if they're happy, sentiment analysis, was their feedback, and all this got to at the end got to some ethical questions. How do you see technologies versus the good guys versus bad guys? Because this technology can be very useful for people, but some company in their own hands can be, really bad. So how do you see this?
I'm glad you caught that, because I feel like that's an important point of all these discussions. Whether my technical session today or my keynote that I did yesterday, it's all about computer vision. And machine learning in the last 2 years has really paved the way for our computers to be able to see, right? So you mentioned, in commodity-based cloud services, we can recognize faces, we can do facial recognition with crazy good accuracy. We can do an emotional profile, a demographic profile, white, male, 55 to 65. And then I also demoed object recognition, which we're just in the beginning of, and it's really exciting stuff. So you mentioned weapon recognition. We are, unleashing is probably a bad word, but we're putting into production software that recognizes weapons in real time with the intent of stopping the tragedy before it ever happens. There's crazy people even in Romania, right? They're not all in the U.S. There's crazy people all over the world, and it just seems like more and more terrible, tragic incidents keep happening. If we could prevent one of those with recognizing through a common surveillance camera in real time a weapon as it's brandished, oh man, this has all been worth it, right? Just one incident. But we're going to see this implemented all over the world, everywhere. It's just going to be a world where cameras are everywhere. They're here. I mean, there's surveillance cameras right here, right there, right? It's so we get in an ethical issue, which is the answer to your question. It was a big setup, but we get in this ethical issue because as developers and technologists, we have amazing power in commodity-based cameras, inexpensive cameras on inexpensive computers, in inexpensive cloud services. That gives us a cheap way to have amazing power, and as developers, we have a responsibility to do the right thing. That's why I think every session or keynote, and certainly Microsoft leads the way with their CEO, talks about this every time. We have an ethical responsibility to use these tools for good, to use computer vision to look for disease and syndromes in X-rays and MRI images and prenatal images, to help solve the world's problem, cancer research, Alzheimer's, weapon recognition. There's all these awesome use cases that'll help the world. But, there's still people out there that don't care about privacy and may want to do some really bad things with this high tech. I don't want to give you use cases because I know your audience is broad and I don't want to give anybody any crazy ideas, but, that we could do some powerful stuff. I'll give you an example. It's easy with the technology of today. It would be easy for any of us, to scrape Facebook pictures and names, put it in a giant database of millions of people, and have them facially recognized in retail without their permission, and maybe to upsell them to Pepsi or Coke or something like that, or more. Maybe track them as they go from McDonald's to a restaurant to a their home, that all that technology's out there. It's our responsibility not to do things like that. It's our responsibility to help cure cancer and to help prevent suicide and tragedies like that.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Was really good. One last question: how do you feel to this edition of IT Camp?
This edition? Well, I've been here like 5 or 6 times. I have lots of friends here now in Romania, especially in Cluj here. I love this conference so much that I bring my wife here. We've traveled in a rental car across your country. For little Americans, that's a big deal because the people drive a little bit differently in Romania than they do where we're from. Crazy, right? But can I end this on a funny little story? This is the last stop on a European tour I've done of keynotes. This is my last stop. It's a great way to end a big, long, over 2-week tour. And everywhere I've went, whether with the Microsoft speakers, like famous people, or just these awesome third-party RDs, MVPs type speakers, everyone I've had this conversation with is like, well, of course you're going to IT Camp in Cluj, right? And they're like, what's that? What am I missing out on? And it's like, oh, you're missing the best conference. You were missing the absolute best conference because of the way they treat us speakers, because the audiences are so engaging. This conference is run so well. It's huge. There's tons of people there. It's just a great experience. So my joke to the IT Camp people is that unfortunately next year they're going to have more speakers apply to speak here than they have conference attendees because of me talking about it. All right.
Nice. Thank you, Tim. Thank you
It's
very
my
much.
pleasure. Great to see you. Hopefully see you next year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.